My phone rang at 2:14 a.m. The sidewalk lights were still on. My daughter was not. That was the first thing I saw when she sent me a shaking photo. Her backpack on cold concrete, street empty, house dark behind her. My name is Marissa Caldwell. I'm a single mother to Maya, 14, sharp-tongued, soft-hearted, and far braver than anyone in my family deserves. I was 3 states away on a work trip I couldn't cancel, trusting that family meant safety while I was gone. Instead, my brother had told her to leave my parents' house because, in his words, she was taking up space. She waited alone on the sidewalk, pretending she wasn't scared. I called my mother in pure disbelief. My voice shook. Hers did not. "You and your daughter simply don't belong here anymore," she said calmly, like she was discussing the weather. Something inside me went quiet, not numb, just still. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I booked the earliest flight home and watched my daughter through a grainy video call until a neighbor let her inside. And in that silent stretch of hours, one thought settled in my chest. If this was how they treated my child, I was done protecting them from consequences. I landed before sunrise, eyes burning, jaw tight. Maya was on my couch when I walked in, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like home, pretending to sleep so she wouldn't cry again. I sat beside her, didn't touch her, didn't ask questions. Some silences don't need words. Later that morning, my phone lit up with messages from my family like nothing had happened. A group chat about groceries. A reminder about a bill. My mother asking if I'd sent the usual payment yet. That's when the picture shifted in my mind. For years, I had quietly covered their loan payments, utilities, and late fees. I told myself it was help. They told themselves it was obligation. No one ever said thank you. No one ever asked if I was okay. I called my bank instead of calling them. Canceled the automatic transfers. Moved my money. Not dramatically, methodically. When my mother texted again, I replied with one line. "I'm not paying anything for you anymore." No explanation. No apology. My brother called within minutes. I let it ring. Maya finally opened her eyes and watched me carefully. "Are you mad?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked, and answered honestly. "I'm not mad, sweetheart. I'm clear." And clarity, I was learning, can be far more dangerous than anger. The calls started that afternoon. First my mother, brisk, irritated, pretending nothing had changed. "Your brother says you're being dramatic. Bills are due tomorrow." I sat at my kitchen table, sunlight slicing clean lines across the floor, and felt nothing rush to rescue her. "Then pay them," I said. Silence. Then disbelief. "You always handle this." "I used to," I replied, and ended the call. My brother called next, anger wrapped in righteousness. He spoke about respect, about family, about how Maya had provoked him by existing in the house without asking permission. Every sentence made something inside me harden a little more. When he finished, I said only this: "You put my child on the street." He had no answer that didn't sound ugly. That evening, Maya and I cooked together. Simple pasta, burnt garlic, too much laughter. She watched me quietly, like she was testing whether the ground beneath us was solid again. Before bed, she asked, "Are they still our family?" I tucked the blanket around her shoulders and chose my words carefully. "They are our relatives," I said. "Family is something different." In the dark, I lay awake and pictured my parents' house, the mortgage, the unpaid bills, the emails already stacking up. For the first time, that image didn't make me anxious. It made me certain. The first late notice arrived 3 days later. I didn't see it. My mother forwarded it to me, circled in red as if urgency alone could restore our old arrangement. Her message was short. "Fix this." I stared at the screen and felt something settle instead of tighten. At dinner, Maya asked what was wrong. I slid the phone toward her without saying a word. She read silently, then looked up at me. "They really thought you'd still pay?" "Yes," I said. "They did." The next morning, a bank email landed in my inbox, not to me, but copied to me by my mother in panic. Words like arrears, penalty, and foreclosure review glowed in cold black font. My brother called, this time less angry, more desperate. You can't let this happen. I poured coffee before answering. I can, I said calmly. And I will. He tried guilt next. Our childhood, my mother's health, the house we grew up in. I listened without interrupting, then spoke one sentence. You chose how to treat my daughter. Silence followed. Heavy, ugly, final. That night, Maya and I walked past our old neighborhood. Lights were on in my parents' house, curtains drawn, figures moving behind them. Maya squeezed my hand. Are we safe? Yes, I said, and for the first time in years, I meant it completely. I didn't celebrate when the bank escalated things. No smugness, no relief, just a strange, steady calm. Consequences don't need cheering. They arrive on their own. 2 weeks later, my mother showed up at my door unannounced. Hair pulled tight, eyes red, purse clutched like a shield. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask about Maya. She spoke like someone who still believed authority could bend reality. The bank called again, she said. They're talking about foreclosure. You need to fix this. I stayed in the doorway. I'm not fixing anything. Her face cracked for the first time. After everything we did for you? I thought of my daughter alone on the sidewalk at 2:14 a.m. You didn't protect my child, I said quietly. That's where everything ended. She started crying, not loudly, just steadily, and for a moment, I almost reached for her. Then I remembered that compassion without boundaries is just self-erasure in a softer voice. Behind me, Maya appeared, cautious, watchful. My mother looked at her, then away. Outside, a letter slid through the mail slot with a dull thud. Thick. Official. My mother glanced toward it, then back at me, suddenly small. And in that silence, I understood something painful and permanent. I hadn't destroyed their house. I had simply stopped holding it up. The bank called me anyway, not to demand payment, just to ask why my name had been removed from several automatic arrangements tied to my parents' accounts. The politeness in their voice made it clear they already knew the answer. I told the truth, calmly. No bitterness, no drama. That evening, my brother tried one last time. He showed up angry, then left desperate, then returned subdued. 3 moods in one visit. He paced my living room, talking about temporary help, about just until things settle. I didn't move from the chair. You put my daughter on the street, I repeated. That wasn't temporary. He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked away. For the first time, he didn't argue. After he left, Maya sat beside me and placed her hand over mine. You're not heartless, she said quietly. You're just done. I smiled at that, small, tired, honest. A week later, a formal foreclosure notice arrived at my parents' house. They called, texted, begged, pleaded. I answered none of it. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. We drove past the house one night. Lights were still on, curtains still drawn, life still moving inside, fragile, ordinary, and now unsheltered by my silence. Maya squeezed my hand again. And in that moment, I knew exactly why I'd made this choice. Not to punish my family, but to protect my child. The panic changed tone after that. At first it was loud, frantic calls, overlapping messages, promises that shifted every hour. Then it turned quieter, heavier, like a storm that had spent itself, but left everything soaked. My mother stopped calling me directly and started calling Maya. Short voicemails that pretended to be casual. I miss you, sweetheart, but carried an edge of desperation underneath. Maya listened once, then handed me the phone without speaking. I didn't scold her. I just held it. My brother sent a single text one night. We're meeting with the bank tomorrow. No apology. No acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just logistics, as if this were still my responsibility. I didn't reply. At school, Maya asked me to switch her emergency contact from my parents to my neighbor. I signed the form without hesitation. She slept better after that. So did I. A few days later, a realtor's sign appeared on my parents' lawn. For sale, as is. The words felt colder than I expected. We drove by slowly. Curtains were half open. My mother stood at the window, watching the street. Maya didn't wave. Neither did I. Because by then, I understood something with painful clarity. They weren't losing a house. They were losing access to the person who had been keeping their lives together. The sale took longer than anyone expected. Strangers walked through rooms that once held birthday candles, family photos, and arguments we'd all pretended were love. Each visit stripped something else away, not just wallpaper or furniture, but the illusion that the house was untouchable. One evening, my mother called from a new number. Her voice sounded smaller, softer, stripped of authority. "I just wanted to tell you we're moving," she said. "Not far. Just smaller." I listened in silence. She waited for me to rescue her. I didn't. After we hung up, Maya came into the kitchen and asked quietly, "Are you sad?" I looked at her, safe, steady, present, and told the truth. "I'm not sad about the house," I said. "I'm sad about what we lost long before this." A week later, the realtor's sign disappeared. Trucks came. Boxes left. The street looked the same, quieter, emptier, but still standing. That night, Maya and I lit a small candle on our table. Not for my parents' house, but for us, for the life we were choosing instead of surviving. I realized then that this story was never really about foreclosure. It was about a mother deciding, finally, that her child's safety mattered more than her family's comfort. And in making that choice, I didn't break anything. I rebuilt myself.